Michael.
Look, it's the other side of sides.
Do I sit here?
You can sit right beside
All
me,
right.
Michael.
Hey, Michael, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us.
Thank you for having me.
Having some good talks.
Yes, I've been hearing it backstage. Very, you guys have very heated opinions.
Alrighty, we're about to get you in on it. We got some questions for you.
Cool.
So speaking of some heated stuff, I'm going to ask you about your very hot vegan chili.
That was good. That was a good leeway.
Thank you, thank you. So let me hit you with that question. Tell me the secret ingredient, pretty please.
So, okay, but I'll just say, so I'm personally not vegan, but in university, I found that I was just not experimenting good with food. I was just doing the chicken and rice thing, and I was like, I can't eat this way for 4 years. So I just started cooking vegan because I found it forced me to like cook and be a bit more creative with my ingredients. So my vegan chili, I just put a whole bunch of vegetables. It's really nothing special. A whole bunch of vegetables, lots of mustard in your vegan chili, ketchup, barbecue sauce, spices. I like it very hot. And then I just put it over some rice. But the whole key of it about it is getting outside of that, I'm just gonna put chicken and rice on and eat that for dinner. Just experiment a little. So I tell people, you know, cook vegan once a week. It really helps you to experiment with your cooking.
Awesome. So earlier we were talking about online dating. How do you feel about online dating?
Okay, my opinion about it is that it is 2017. Online dating is just like inevitable. It's gonna happen.
Oh my God.
I'm personally a favor of, I like online dating. I think you get to know that person a little bit more before you meet them and have that awkward like face-to-face interaction with them. And to the people who don't like online dating, like if you were to meet someone, you know, at a party or whatever, don't you stalk them on Instagram? Don't you check them out on Facebook? Isn't that an aspect of online dating? Because you're finding out things about them online before you find out them in
I want to
person.
test my theory though. Have you ever swiped while on a date before?
I have been. First of all, morally, my mother taught me to not do that. So I'm gonna play it safe and say no. But I've also been in a 4.5-year relationship, so there was no swiping right before I got in that relationship.
Teddy, what have
So,
you done? Oh
I
my
get to-
goodness. Teddy, goodness gracious.
I get to get out of that question nice and safe.
So, Michael, we all know you're a very successful YouTuber with 13 million page views. What are your keys to success? Like, we all want to be you.
I think, oh, thank you. Thank you very much, guys. Boosting my ego here. I don't know. I started in high school, and I just found that maybe people saw something authentic in me. Like, I really let it all out there online. And when I started on YouTube, like, talking about your life, like my coming out experience and like things that were going on personally wasn't a big deal because there wasn't a lot of people watching YouTube. So it wasn't that scary. And then I kind of just got used to it. So when people were watching YouTube, I was already like, hey, here's everything about my life, like unfiltered. And then people were like, oh, cool. So I think that's one thing that really works is just not being filtered. Too many people try to create a variation of themselves online. And I mean, I do that too on Instagram, definitely. But with YouTube, it's easier because you can't edit things about yourself in video. Like you are who you are.
So just a bit ago, you were talking about coming out. We know that National Coming Out Day was just recently. I wanted to know if you had any advice for parents whose children might be asking or coming out to them, you know, how they might handle it better or what would be, you know, an ideal way of approaching the situation.
See, I want to flip that question because the audience on this is a lot younger. And I would say to the younger people who are coming out, and this is something I wish I could tell my younger self, is to be patient with your parents. I had very accepting parents, but there was certain aspects about coming out that they had a problem with, or being gay they had a problem with, and I was a little too harsh on them. And I think it didn't take me 5 minutes to accept my sexuality. It's not gonna take them 5 minutes. I think your parents are loving people, and most of them have your best intentions at heart, and just give them some time. But what I will say is that, especially to the younger people, is that if you are in a situation that you feel is unsafe, or you feel like you couldn't handle it if your parents kicked you out, then stay in the closet for a while, at least to your parents, because your safety should be your #1 concern.
Oh, that's great, Michael. On talks about, you know, the LGBT community, let's talk about the word queer, because a lot of straight people don't know where to use it, when to use it, what's the appropriate words. What do you think about it?
It's weird. There was a show growing up called, I think, Popular. And I remember this was the first time that I ever saw the word queer, because there was a bully, and he spray painted the word queer onto a locker. And I was like, huh, is that like a bad word? And that's the first time I realized maybe it's a bad word. And in that time since now, queer has sort of been reclaimed by the LGBT community, and I find it's a very cultural word. So I explain it like big D deaf versus little d deaf. If you're deaf and you don't necessarily associate with the deaf community, you're little d deaf, but if you do and you're culturally deaf, you have deaf friends, you're big D deaf. And I compare that with being in the LGBT community. I identify as gay, but I also identify culturally as queer because a large part of my life is associated with the gay community, especially online, and so it's very personal to me. And so I would say to that, straight people shouldn't use the word queer because it's not a word that was made for you. It was a word that straight people used against us, and now that we have it back, it's personally for us.
You know what? I'm gonna hit you with a follow-up question. Let's talk about problematic stereotypes in the gay community and like on the LGBT community.
I personally don't hate stereotypes in the gay community, and I will give a little backstory to this.
Okay.
When I was coming out, well, I wasn't actually out yet. It was in grade 9. And I was hanging out with one of my friends after school, well, we were planning to, and one of her girlfriends told her to watch out for me because she heard that I baked cupcakes after school. And that was the first time that I learned that, you know, there's these feminine stereotypes about gay men. We like to bake cupcakes and we like rainbows and we want to go shopping. And I realized that all of the stereotypes for gay people are really awesome things that straight people wish they could just embrace. No one here dislikes cupcakes. No one here dislikes shopping if you want to go shopping.
Yeah, you're right.
Personally, for myself, I don't care too much for gender and gender roles. If I want to be feminine, I'm going to be feminine. If I want to be masculine, I'm going to be masculine. That's usually where the stereotypes lay. And so I personally like the stereotypes because it gives me an excuse to do something like that.
So, did you actually bake cupcakes in grade
I
9?
love baking cupcakes. They're great.